Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We're the podcast that makes every Monday a fun day as we get together and we talk movies, but we have a purpose here. We are the podcast that is trying to find just one movie to represent each state in these United States. We're currently on our second trip around the country, and today we stop at the state of Wyoming, where last time around our champion was somewhat controversial. Because it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but at the same time, it does have some pretty significant iconography. But what movies are going to take it down potentially this week? We'll get to that. Before we do, let's welcome back my amazing co-host, as always, Ryan Sander, buddy. Welcome back.
Great to be here. We got some great movies lined up this week for you
Bloody
guys.
Bangers. Absolutely. We're like a real podcast this week.
Well, let's not stop saying that.
I said like.
We will never become a real podcast.
Well, that is the US of a movie promise. But before we get any further on, as always, sitting in the middle of his very own video store in the center of Los Angeles, California, it's Will Hirsch. Will, welcome back, buddy.
Great to be here, but unfortunately, I got to fight you guys for leadership of our little hole in the wall gang here. You guys said that those were the rules, so we're going to do that tonight. Forget movie reviews.
Yeah. All hole, no glory.
So the movies that we brought to the table today are actually two very different and very similar movies at the same time. Will, why don't you introduce one of them to the audience now?
So one of them is, I think, kind of the precursor to the buddy cop movies that we've seen, like, that started like with Lethal Weapon and all that. The real kind of genesis of that is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, because if you show this movie to a modern audience today, the dialogue between the two of them feels like it was from a movie that was made just today.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I felt exactly the same. I'm watching this, I was like, oh shit, this is like, was this the first one? Because for the dialogue to be this way in a movie from the 60s, I assume, because this is the only movie I've seen from the 60s at this point, like their chemistry together was so good. So good.
Yeah, I sort of forget how funny it is. Yeah, it's a 1969 Western buddy film directed by George Roy Hill, who would go on to work with both of them, actually. I think he did The Sting and he did some other stuff as well. And it also features, so it's Paul Newman, of course, Robert Redford, Sundance Film Festival. The Sundance Kid actually named after the Sundance Film Festival. Just kidding. And then also Catherine Ross, who we've had on the show before. She was in the Stepford Wives.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She looked familiar. And the one we haven't seen with Dustin Hoffman, right? Where they end up
The Graduate.
That's it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. This movie, it came out initially, did not get great reviews from like the big reviewers of the day, but then went on to make over $100 million in 1969. It was a massive hit. It was very much word of mouth. Just everyone was like, no, you got to see this movie. It's really fun. It's like, it's really different. It's not like other Westerns that you're kind of expecting.
Not at all.
Right.
In so many ways, which we will definitely be getting into. And then went on to actually like win an absolute shit ton of awards. It won a number of Oscars, did not win picture or director, though it did get nominated. I think it still holds the record for most BAFTA wins of any movie ever. I think it was 8. And it's the return in the second week in a row of Burt Bacharach from Austin Powers.
From the Blob.
for the most. Also, like I remember the first time I saw the film. The raindrops keep falling on your head, being so out of place.
Yes,
I was like, wait, what?
Especially in that scene where he's riding the bicycle.
Yeah,
where there's no rain. Yeah,
none. Honestly, and apparently Robert Redford agrees with us, especially when he first saw it and he goes, "That's stupid. Where's the rain? Nothing's happening." Yeah. But he did go on to then say he was wrong, because it went on to be an absolutely gargantuan hit that I was actually singing right before we started recording. So
it was one of those, I'm like, that's where this is from? Like, he wrote that song for this film?
Most
Most people think he wrote it for Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 2,
Right.
whichever Spider-Man it showed up in.
Too many
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, every Spider-Man everywhere.
The blob, the blob, the blob. Sorry, it's stuck,
No,
still stuck
no,
in my head.
no.
But then we also have a movie that I thought I owned on Blu-ray, and I'm really annoyed that I don't. But it's actually, oh man, I think one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Ryan, why don't you introduce the absolute banger as well?
Was it 1994? 1992.
1992.
We picked Unforgiven, written, directed, starring, themes hum by
Catering,
Clint
dance numbers.
Ulysses Eastwood.
Yeah.
Well, it was directed, produced, stars, and yes, the music is actually done by Clint Eastwood as well. What little there is, but actually, that's a very common theme if you get into Clint Eastwood movies. He's a very talented musician.
Oh, sure.
Written by David Webb Peoples, though. This movie, this was another massive hit, made $159 million. It was also numerous Oscar nominations and wins. I believe it got Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor as well. Didn't get Best Actor for Clint Eastwood. But it's got just an incredible cast of Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris, Clint Eastwood, and it's just. I watched it last night, and like I told you guys, like last episode, like I've got my little movie buddy, my German exchange student Tildy, and she came and watched it with me too. And it's just this movie just always blows me away. Now, had you guys like Ryan? Had you seen Unforgiven before?
No, I hadn't seen either of these movies. I watched
Wow.
Unforgiven first, and then watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid last night. And I think I liked this movie, but I wasn't blown away by it.
Mm.
Maybe like you were. I think maybe you might have overhyped it a little bit. I don't know. I just didn't. I was like, I enjoyed it, but it was like it's not up there with my favorite westerns.
Well,
But
you see, it's a revisionist western, of that sort of kind that instead of like going
yeah,
for the sort of somewhat simple or frivolous, this one it leans very much into sort of like the realism and the gray, and there is no real good or bad guy.
right.
They're all just people.
Mhm.
But for me, I mean, it's just I love how understated this movie is. Will, what
Yeah, I was
about
gonna
you?
say, yeah.
For these two movies, I'm assuming you've seen both of them
Oh
before.
yeah, I've seen both of these many times. I'm a huge Western fan, so both of these I've seen a bunch of times. I love this movie a lot, but yeah, I think I was telling you guys, especially like for right now, kind of where my headspace is. I'm like, I don't really want to see realistic depictions of violence right now. And that's one of the things about this Western that sets it apart is like it treats the gunfights as like, hey, this is actually all kind of sad and pathetic. This isn't really like, I mean, you have the end scene, but this is like still, it's like you're still killing people. There's no glory in any of this. There's
Mm.
no kind of it's
Yeah.
not action movie
It
shootout
is
at all.
very nuanced. Like I was expecting, because when you read the log line, it sounds like you're in for an old man revenge style thriller, and this movie is not that at all.
Yeah,
It's like 40 minutes of Clint Eastwood trying to get onto a horse.
Yep.
And
it's funny enough the opposite of something like Gran Torino, where it's just like
exactly, yeah.
he's a secret badass and he's just waiting for an opportunity. And this is like the opposite of like, nah, this guy he was very public badass, and he's really not comfortable stepping back into that role and
Yeah,
doesn't want to.
yeah.
It's I mean it's there's for a western. I mean, you talk about shootouts. There's hardly any.
Right.
Yeah,
And when they do happen, they happen in the space of well, like any real gunfight would. Like they say, the OK Corral was like 11 seconds long. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
when you get into it,
Yeah.
these things are very quick and dirty. I mean, like saying they're avoiding any of the glory or glamour that you get one guy shot on the toilet, in the outhouse. You get one guy just gut shot from a distance and dies slowly.
Right.
But
You
then you
say
get
that, but some of my best memories were only 11 seconds long, you know?
or on the toilet. but no, this movie for me, I think is I think one of the best, if not my favorite. It's just for being the best Western.
It's a great depiction of that, and it does break the norm of what you would expect from a Western. Because in my mind, watching this, I just never really grew up watching Westerns. I think the first one I'd probably seen was The Quick and the Dead. I'm like, oh, or the other Mel Gibson movie, um,
Maverick.
Maverick.
Maverick. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I was
I
like,
see
oh,
them.
they're fun. They're fun. That's why I really like gravitated more towards Butch Cassidy because I liked the lighthearted fun aspect of it versus the brutal realism of this one.
Well, I tell you
Yeah.
what, let's stick on Unforgiven then. We'll save the sweetness of Butch Cassidy for later in the episode. But like, so for those of you that haven't seen, like, what was really cool about this movie, in a lot of ways, is if you think westerns, you think Clint Eastwood. I mean, the guy only did
100%.
7,000 of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not a fistful of dollars or a few dollars more, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Pale Rider, Oh Lord, Josie Wells. I mean, it's just what he did.
Was this was his first like return to a western from doing all of those?
Yes and no. What it really was his last Western as well. He goes, "This is the last one I'm doing," because he says, he says any other sort of like any other approach to this is just going to be me retreading on things that have already been done. He also said it was going to be the last movie that he starred in and directed, and that was a big fucking lie because he did that about 1,000 more
40
times.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the guy
I'm
is
still waiting for the juror number 3. Let's
Dude,
go.
he is 94 years old, that guy, and I swear he just still working, still shooting. It's quite incredible. But in this case, it tells the story of William Money, who, kind of like Ryan was saying, used to be a bad guy, used to kill people. And essentially, the movie starts so quickly. The movie starts with one random cowboy, slashing up a prostitute.
We get that title crawl too, like
Yeah.
the story, right?
But like in the town of Big Whiskey, Wyoming. But yeah, like the movie starts and ends with a very specific sort of camera angle. The sun's going down. It gives us a kind of opening call. Apparently, is it Pale Rider? It's the exact same shots from Pale Rider, which is another Clint Eastwood movie that he did. And apparently Richard Harris was literally watching that movie when Clint Eastwood called him to offer him the job, and he thought it was a prank. It's just one of those random coincidences. But very like right at the beginning, a prostitute gets disfigured. And little Bill, who's played by the just incredible Gene Hackman in this movie, just incredible,
So good.
doesn't really do justice by this sort of situation. So the prostitutes in the brothel all gang together, and they put the word out that $1,000 to whoever kills those guys. A young guy turns up at William Money's sort of ranch with his 2 small children. I mean, they're small children.
Yeah.
Where he has recently, 3 years before, buried his wife. Meeting that wife has turned him onto the straight and narrow, but essentially what that does is it starts off, that was the inciting incident of the whole point of the movie is who's going to come and kill these guys? And you've got Gene Hackman going, I don't want that violence in my town. That's essentially the movie in its entirety. Yeah. But there's just so much that goes down in this movie. He meets his old partner Ned is played by Morgan Freeman.
His wife was great.
Yeah,
no
Sally
words.
Two Trees. Yeah,
just this fucking guy.
Yeah.
Also, I think Clint Eastwood is 26 years old in this movie.
Yeah. He was 61 when he made this movie, which is wild to me that it's like, it's Clint Eastwood near the end of his career making one last Western. Let's celebrate his swan song. No, he 30 more years to go.
Yeah. So silly. Yeah. I was going to say something else and I totally forgot.
I like old man Clint Eastwood in movies though, just angry but even like that period, it was this one and In the Line of Fire is when we bring up all the time. I love him in that.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like this, is that Clint Eastwood in this movie is the same age as Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and Keanu Reeves right now. You know?
That's insane. Because he really does feel like a very old man in this movie.
Yeah. Watching him fall and roll around and shit, I'm like, or what the pig slop, I'm like, oh man, it feels wrong to watch an old man do that.
Yeah. But then, you find out, he's not really that old in this movie. But, I'll give him credit. This is the last Western he ever made. So I do like that he did stick to his guns.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. There's still time.
Yeah.
Let's wait for Reforgiven.
Unforgiven legacy sequel.
Yes.
Oh, God.
We gotta see what happened with his 2 kids, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I do want to talk about very quickly though. I did see, and I had no idea until today, but the 2013 Japanese remake starring Ken Watanabe.
I do want to see that.
It's basically the same movie, but he's a samurai. I was like, what? What? It's got incredible reviews as well. That might be a movie. I was thinking we may have to do a special episode about foreign remakes of movies that we've done on the show.
Yes.
I think that could be quite a fun
Yeah.
fun thing. So it basically comes down to there's this young guy. What's his name? Who's James Wolflet as the Schofield kid. He claims to be, I've killed loads of men, and he says that basically my uncle said if I ever need to do some killing, you were the guy to get because you were the low down, dirtiest sumbitch that's ever existed. And you only ever sort of get little bits of it, but is that Clint Eastwood's character apparently was a real son of a bitch. And he says honestly he doesn't really remember because he says he was drunk and he was just a bad, evil, wicked man. This is what he's saying to his children. But he met his wife. Did you notice on the grave, died age 29 of smallpox? I'm like, wow, man, in 29, you were 61. Wow. But she
was vaccinated.
Yeah. She put him on the straight and narrow. And that is like the biggest part of him and his character in this movie is that he doesn't drink, he doesn't do this stuff. It's just not who he is anymore. And he doesn't want to disrespect his wife. And that's why for me, when I watch this movie, is the moment when he just takes the whiskey bottle from the kid. That for me is like getting slapped in the face. That for me in the movie is what I'm always waiting for, is that moment. Because it's such a character moment, because the whole movie he's been so restrained. In the whole movie he's pushing away the whiskey. In the whole movie he's talking about his life of regret and how he doesn't want to go back. But when they cross the line, it's like, give me that whiskey. And it unlocks this other guy. And I think
it becomes awesome.
Yeah, he really does.
As a sober person, I was like watching this the whole time, like, should I start drinking again?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Will it make me awesome?
Am I doing this all wrong?
But that in itself is kind of what's interesting about every character, because you got Little Bill, who is Gene Hackman. He's got his own sort of like level of justice and violence, and he's not wrong about the way he's going about things, and he's just like, he's a violent guy. And honestly, it's kind of like the bringing together of Gene Hackman as the violent guy who's got his own legend, and then you've got Richard Harris as English Bob, who's got his own legend, and he's a killer as well. And then you got William Money. They've all got their own legends. Granted, like Ned used to partner up with Will, but like it seems that it's the three of those guys have all got their sort of like their past. And that's what's really interesting. You've got 60-year-old Clint Eastwood, and you've got almost 60-year-old like Gene Hackman.
But Little Bill and Money's, their paths had never crossed before, even though
they've heard of each other,
right? Of this legendary ilk. Like, it's interesting. Then you get the guy who's writing all the shit down.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's and that's kind of what's kind of what's interesting about actually both these movies, for being sort of like, Unforgiven is showing you the reality, and then you've got the guys that are writing the comics or writing the stories, and then it's like it's the never let the truth get in the way of a good story kind of vibe. Is the somewhat sort of like romantic memory, if you will, of what the West wasn't. Whereas there's the reality of it. And then interesting enough is like Butch Cassidy starts off with that sort of like that silent movie, which is honestly, it's aping the Great Train Robbery of 1903, which is itself a revisionist Western, which kind of just shows the reality. And it kind of makes Butch Cassidy more of a meta sort of approach of, there it is. And that's what it was. But we know what? We're going to make Lethal Weapon, and just have a good time with it. So they both kind of address that, that's it's Saul Rubinek, is that not?
Yes.
A guy with whose eyebrows have their own acting at all times, and like has that interesting sort of lip thing. But he's there, and he's basically like biographer for English Bob, who kind of rolls into town. I think English Bob's a really interesting character because he doesn't get to do much apart from get the absolute shit kicked out of him.
Yeah,
right.
You think they're going to introduce him as this? I don't know I didn't know what they were going to introduce him as, because you only see him on the train. They're reading these stories about him. He's there to, I don't know, shoot the Chinese which is insane.
He's apparently, he used to kill people he's basically just been like a mercenary hired gun. Right. But he's there because he's trying to claim this.
And that's the guy that played Marcus Aurelius in Gladiator. That's
I was watching it, but I was watching it with Tilds, and I go, that's Dumbledore. And she's like, what? But then I also blew her mind by going, "There's two Dumbledores." She's like, "What?" I was
It's
like,
technically
Yeah.
3.
well, yes,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, you got Jude Law too. But yeah, no. So it's and that's kind of what I like is that yes, you're expecting English Bob to roll into town, and you're expecting I don't know something like
Yeah.
from Tombstone, "I'm Your Huckleberry" or stuff like that.
Something.
And yeah,
Gets a haircut, gets the shit kicked out of him. That's the end of that story.
yeah, gets
Yeah.
thrown in prison and then gets
But
sent on his way.
But that scene, I mean, that whole interaction with him, it's just basically it's there to establish just how ruthless Gene Hackman can be.
Mhm.
And like the dialogue they have together and the realization when he's got him in the prison cell after, I mean, he's just the shit is just kicked out of him. And all he can every time they cut back to him, he just rolls over and goes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been learning
Love
some
it.
stuff about that. So that's the Duck of Death scene. Because the book that he's writing is called The Duke
Duck
of
of
Death. And that's where Gene Hackman there's that whole scene where he kind of tells the truth about English Bob, and you have just that incredible showdown where he's like, "No, give him the gun," and he's just standing there. Oh my God. I mean, Gene Hackman in like that, well,
great.
apparently this was all shot in 2 days. It was put together very quickly. Clint Eastwood works very quickly with actors, right? And apparently it's because of rain. They put this all together. That, it turns out, they only revealed very recently, but that was the first time they'd done the scene. This was a rehearsal.
oh wow.
In fact, if you watch it, you can see there's a script on one of the tables. And that was like, Saul was like going, no, that was our first take. And he's like, Gene Hackman is
No shit.
one of the all-time like legends and greats. And then that's because that scene as well is, that's where they gave him the Oscar. They'll hand the Oscar over because he's just got presence. And it's like, that's what I love about the movie is there's so much that's kind of unsaid. And there's like, little character things, like, for example, like, in a way that Gene Hackman is terrible at building his fucking house.
I
Like,
love
yeah.
it.
it's leaking everywhere. And it's
Everyone
like,
makes fun of him for it.
All the
yeah.
deputies are like, yeah, but he's a really shitty carpenter, right?
and then like the little character bit, like with English Bob, is that the whole time he's been in the movie, he's talking posh and everything else, and he's talking about, oh, you don't kill a king, you can kill a president, but killing a king, royalty
Yeah.
would. But
Meanwhile,
then-
the French are like, "Excuse me, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
you
But
very
when
much
he-
can."
I'm
But
sitting
did you
on the train.
notice-
I'm like, these are some pretty good ideas.
But did you notice on as he's rolling out of town and he's cursing everyone out? He's cursing everyone out in a Cockney accent to show
Yeah.
that everything about him is full of shit. The stories
Yeah.
that he was telling the
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah,
full
exactly.
of shit. It's all posturing and
It made me think of not sorry to keep going back to The Quick and the Dead, but
no.
when Gene Hackman has the shootout scene with the guy, I think it's Lance Henriksen, he's got the playing cards and shit, and
Yeah.
he just calls him out on all his bullshit, and because he's like, hey, you know that story you told where you did all this shit? That was fucking me, and then they shoot. That's fucking great. But he's like so ruthless and evil in that, whereas this one, like, you can see the undercurrent of that mentality, but you're still not quite sure. I'm like, I was like, is he the good guy in this? Like, I just don't know.
He's not and is and isn't
Right.
and is. He's just not the protagonist.
Yeah, he's kind of, his faults are that he really lets the two cowboys in the beginning go with like such a light punishment for and the one kid is innocent, but the guy who did like the cutting, like that guy should be in jail probably forever. Like
Yeah.
that guy is,
Yeah, at least
guy's
bull
absolutely
whip
trash.
him.
Yeah, and so it's a little bit like his sense of like right and wrong is skewed a little bit. It's great that he doesn't want violence in his town, but he's such a violent guy.
Yeah.
So it's this really kind of complex picture of
But
like,
it's violence on prostitutes, so he's
Right.
trying to
Well,
be
but
like,
then exactly,
like-
actually, though, jokes aside, is that's what I was going to
Yeah,
say. Is
like-
that his crime in the movie is his sort of like misogyny.
Yeah.
Is that like is in his way that he says, all right, well, Skinny, the guy that runs the brothel, and he's like, hey, my property's been like, I got a contract here signed, and like, who's gonna want to hump? No one's gonna want to hump her. And
from,
like
the Naked Gun, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pap Schmear. No, it's not Pap Schmear, but yes, it's the
No.
other guy.
Yeah.
The murderer. Oh my God, that's such a great reference. And I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about the trailer that everyone.
He had such a distinct face, like I had to look him up. I'm like, oh, of course I know him from that.
But
yeah,
it's like, but it's like the lead prostitute, if you will, the more senior of them, and it's just like, we're not cattle. You're treating us like cattle, and you're making it right by giving horses over. This is not right.
Right.
You know, Little Bill, this is not right. And that's kind of like, that's the one part about it. But you're right, is that when you get into it, is that, yeah, he's a sheriff that runs his town with a hard hand, but it's not like he's a corrupt sheriff. You know, he's just dishing out justice his way.
But they have a sign out front that says no weapons, so it's totally fine. Like no guns, right? Because everyone has fucking knives, so
right, yeah. That also I've heard I've seen definitely some reviewers like criticize that aspect of like, oh, the Western town, no guns. That was like super, super common, like back in the day. Like it's actually like, it's funny they bring it up even in like Tombstone, where it's like, yeah, you can't bring guns into town. Like that was like really, really super common in the old West.
There's just like a cubby section where everyone checks their guns.
Yeah, it was literally to discourage.
Little gun hotel. They put them in little beds.
They do that in Back to the Future 3 as well. You know, so yeah, it's like
the most accurate Western, yes,
ever made.
Never heard
but yeah, like it's yeah, like so much of like this movie is that just like, you know,
morals, like
yes, well,
right?
you know, that's the thing, is that, you know, we're following Clint Eastwood's character. We're constantly being told about what a terrible person he was, but I guess like we're on his side because it's like, well, I know I'm good now, I'm good, but he's still going on his way to commit murder, you know, but he's like, and he's like, and they go, well, he kind of deserved it because they cut her eyes out and cut her tits off and everything.
Yeah, he lies to him.
Yeah. It's just like it's everything.
Everything.
The rumor of like what happened to the prostitute like grows and grows to where it's like, yeah, she's basically just a head on a stick. And
he's like everything but her cunny. He says,
yes,
did not like that line. Yeah. But like it does say something about his character when like he meets the prostitute. And he doesn't stop to be like, well, wait, did we misunderstand the severity of the situation? Like, they still carry on with like, all right, I guess we're gonna kill these guys.
Sorry.
Oh, no, so I'm just like, so that's like plays into the morals too of like, well, okay, what is everyone's moral line here of like right and wrong?
Yeah, because even the young guy that hires him has fabricated all of these tales. Like he's never shot anybody. Like everyone is.
Oh, it's so
very
obvious.
Right. Well, like, he can't even see. Like that was a fun reveal.
He's blind.
Like,
it's like, and because it's got little bits of humor in there. But yeah, it's like, yeah, that's why I love the movie. That it's constantly kind of defying convention. That, you know, the very first time that Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman meet, you know, he's sick as a dog. He just kind of gets kind of roughed up. There's no great face down. There's no I'll see you at, you know, noon. There's that high noon. They
just fucking toss his ass out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's constantly,
while Ned is upstairs banging prostitutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there you go again. So you got Ned's upstairs, Schofield Kid upstairs, and they're taking freebies with the girls, right? And then, you know, the girl that got cut up is like helps him recover, and she's like, look, would you like to sleep? And he's like, no, I don't think my wife would like that, you know. And, you know, even though she died, right? But like, okay, so he's kind of got this moral center, and then,
but totally fine with leaving his two very small children behind with the hogs.
Well, it was the 1880s.
That's what I'm like. Hey, I understand if the young boy was like a little bit older, but these were very young children.
Yeah, he was a very handsome little boy. They were very well cast actually, but like, you know, because he definitely wasn't annoying as the Shane kid.
No, I mean, thinking about that.
Both those interesting fact. Both those kids. Adam Driver.
He's so good. Guy's got range.
It's the fucking Rickroll of this podcast. I hate that you get me every time. But yeah, I was thinking like, yeah, you can't have like a Western film with a small child and not think about Joey from Shine.
Yeah.
But like,
they were good.
But to get back, so that you get that part of like, you've got Saul Rubinek's character, you know, I think it's
that's
Mr.
what I was going to
Beauchamp,
ask.
right?
Like, I assumed like English Bob, Mr. Beauchamp were in town because they got the call, like the working ladies put out like a newsletter or something to hire, and that's what they were in town for.
Well, it was kind of references that basically it wasn't a newsletter, but every time someone rolled into town and rolled around in bed with them, they were like, as you get sent on your way, put the word out. We got $1,000 for these guys. Okay. So yeah, no, they 100% did. They came in to do that. That's what's going on. But what's interesting is that it's Saul Rubinek's character kind of like, leaves English Bob behind and is more interested by Gene Hackman because
Right.
Gene Hackman's giving him like,
Gotta go where the story is.
right. And he's a more interesting story, but also like it's not, that bit where he's saying the key is not who's the fastest and the quickest, it's who maintains cool under pressure.
Mhm.
It's like it's very often the guy that doesn't get phased under fire, and there's a very rare sort of thing. He's the one that's going to win the gunfight, and that's
Right.
that when we flash all the way back to the end,
Mhm.
like of what actually goes down, that's exactly how it
Yeah.
goes down. Now
Exactly.
so I want to like build up to that. So Ned, decides he's out, he's heading back, and then he gets captured by the gang, he gets tortured, and like I said, that's the moment that turns. And for me, I just want to talk about that last 15 minutes of the movie. Is
Mhm.
for me, it's like I said, it's why I watched this movie. Is that he finds out Ned's been tortured. He takes the whiskey from that kid, and he's asking all these questions. And in between each one, he's just taking huge swigs of whiskey, huge swigs of whiskey. They
He'd
put
be
him out
so
to
fucking hammered after not drinking for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
but it's like you're wondering where it's going. I remember the first time, and there's Gene Hackman, and he's holding court in the bar with like 30 guys.
Yeah. All armed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he just walks in and he's like, "Hi, I'm here to fucking kill you." And then like the way the gunfight goes down, because let's talk about, in comparison to the final gunfight from Butch and Sundance, is big and loud and exciting and jumping over walls and bullet ricochets and like all this stunts are happening. This one, he just goes bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Just takes each one of them out, and it's like, and you see the other guys sort of panicking, and they're all shooting wildly, and the bullets are just zinging past him, but he is just this dead-eyed.
And they're all like 6 feet away from one another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's the again, I think is much more of the truth of it. I mean, ever go to a shooting range and just like without? I mean, like I was.
Well,
doing
you
that
can't do
quick,
that in a shooting range.
But like I was doing.
You'll get thrown out. Yeah.
I was doing that quick draw competition,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that the other day, and it's crazy how it's like you sort of just get into the understanding of if someone else is shooting at you and the panic. I mean, yeah, if you're just
Yeah.
off by a little bit with a pistol, you're going to miss by 6 feet. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
But you just see on Clint Eastwood, he just sort of like he's just like a robot as he just
There's
goes the Terminator.
There's a line in Butch Cassidy where the reveal that Paul Newman has never shot anyone, and he's like,
Yeah.
just aim for the center. You're bound to hit something.
Right, yeah.
Even if
I
you
was
miss.
thinking about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like funny to like the parallels of these two movies are
Mhm.
interesting.
But I'm like interested in like for you guys, how did that scene? Because I know Will, I know your mindset was a little bit different, but that scene is amazing. And then Ryan, it's like you were looking a little bit more for the charm. But like, how did you guys take that scene? Did it get you the same way it gets me? I guess is my question.
I mean, like I said, this movie really did. I went into this with a thought process of like with an expectation, which went out the way as this movie goes on, because it really does all crescendo at that once. I mean, yeah, you get the other shootout where Ned, he's got the rifle, but he can't pull the trigger at that moment. That's
Yeah.
when he realized, he just kind of sits there and he's like, I don't want to do this. This sucks.
Yeah.
And then, that's like all of it building up to that final shootout where you can finally see just the legend you've heard so much about through everyone, through kind of the breadcrumbs of all of it. It was
Mhm.
really, really cool. But again, just like so bleakly done. Like it wasn't entertaining. It was just like, oh man, this is how it would probably go down.
Yeah, it's a little bit of as an audience, kind of be careful what you wish for, because like as you're watching the movie, you're kind of like, are we gonna get that big shootout? And you do, and it's not fun. It's
Right.
actually just you're watching a guy murder a whole bunch of people. There, and again, nothing great about it. It is like somewhat satisfying, and like you find out, oh,
Yeah.
the duck of death, like, okay, he's a fraud. The Schofield kid's a fraud. All these people are kind of like building themselves up to something they're not. And then you find out, oh no, William Money, he
Yeah.
is actually that guy, and you don't want him to be that guy.
And they're not all like nameless henchmen like you would see in like a like a Lethal Weapon or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, like all of these characters that he ends up shooting are well established by that time. Like all of his deputies, like you've learned about these people, so you have some empathy towards them. But I did have a question, like when he's going into town and the train goes by and you see English Bob on the
Mhm.
train, he sees him? Does he recognize him? Like,
No, I think it's
I don't
just
think so.
scene. I
Yeah.
think it's scene geography. I think
okay,
it's showing us that, like, okay, they're approaching the town and he's
that
on
makes
the
sense.
way out. But something I do want to talk about, actually, you reminded me when you talked about how the movie's crescendoing, right?
Mhm.
Is how there's very little music in this
Yes.
Mhm.
movie. Very little. So they're not building up to it or anything like that. He just walks in. What you do have a lot of is the sound of wind and the sound of trees and the sound of rain. And honestly, that was something that Tildy brought up. She's like, halfway
Yeah.
through the movie, she goes, "This movie is really, really relaxing and comforting." And I go, what do you mean? She goes, "The noise, the sound.
Hmm.
It's just, it's
The
always
sound of
there."
the rain on the roofs, like when they're in the jail,
Mhm.
like the prison scene,
Yeah.
because it's raining outside, and you get, because I think Clint Eastwood, they're all camping outside, so you get that geography. Like, oh,
Hmm.
that's. I mean, that was really in the scene when he's in in the house with his writer, and it's just dripping everywhere,
Mhm.
and he's getting pots and throwing them out. It's just
But yeah,
great.
it's I hadn't really
Yeah,
clocked it
I didn't
until
think of
she
that either.
mentioned it, and then
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, when they're shooting outside, because watching Butch and Sundance, you're hearing it's all ADR, as in, like, you've got a Foley artist doing the clickety
yeah, yeah,
clacks
yeah,
and the steps and stuff like that, and then I'm watching Unforgiven, I'm like, no man, they just set a microphone up,
yeah.
and that's that tree blowing in the background, and it's those leaves, and it's the wind, and it's the hair, and it's the neigh of the horse, and
Like you could get a YouTube playlist of like lo-fi Unforgiven sounds to
yeah.
Yeah.
fall asleep to or
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right. It's
Yeah,
like one of those things, like my son's got like a white noise
a
machine of
sound,
like
yeah, sound
thunder
machine.
and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, Tills, you're right,
I did think the whale calling was out of place.
or like the ee, like the dolphin.
Yeah,
There were so many whales in Wyoming though back in those days. It's
And
right.
the fact that every time he shot someone at the end, that they all had the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah,
yeah, that was a little over the top, but
No, for me, like, and then that's, it's done. It's done and dusted. He kind of like, I like the way that he walks out, and he's so scary that he kills six guys. They all run. He blows Gene Hackman's head off with a shotgun, and then he kind of just goes out, and he's like, "Don't even think about it. Don't
Mhm.
even think about taking a shot." And there's a couple of guys in the dark, and they're like,
yeah.
I don't want none of that.
He's like,
like,
if you
you
want to
do it,
live,
I don't
get
wanna
the
do it.
fuck out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's such an amazing end because it
And
could have
I
just
did,
they could have gone big, and
yeah.
it goes big while going small at the
I
same time.
definitely didn't expect him, spoiler alert, to like survive this journey. You think that it's like this is my last rodeo. This is
Mhm.
it. Well, but except for the fact that he has two children to get home to that are,
Right.
Right.
what, eating all their sick hogs.
They're just eating bacon every day.
Mm,
But
Mhm.
yeah, and then it kind of ends, and it's kind of like it's got that theme, like that Clint Eastwood ridden theme going through the whole thing, and it bookends with the exact same, either side, same shot, same
yeah.
thing,
Yeah, the
with
Burt Bacharach score wouldn't have worked here.
yeah, with a crawl,
Though
but
the
like,
rain, I mean, maybe it would have.
but for me, man, nah, for me, I ended that movie, like the movie ended, and I just like
Yeah.
just took a deep breath, and I'm like, Teddy, I
Yeah.
love this
This
movie so
it's
much.
it's such a dad movie, though. It's not a movie
Yeah.
I'm gonna be quick to like throw on, because Will, you're so right. I didn't even think of this. And like you really kind of want to be in the right mindset to watch a film like this.
It's heavy because it deals with murder in a much more realistic way. I mean,
Yeah.
the Schofield kid has that dialogue where he's like, "This is not at all what I thought it was going to be like." Clint Eastwood's like, "Yeah, this
He
is what
shot that
killing it."
guy on the toilet so many times.
Yeah, he's like, "This is what killing a man is.
Yeah.
You take away everything he is, you take away everything he's going to be,
Yeah.
And it's like it's real, kind of like that's why I like watching this like right now. I'm like, ooh. I really want to watch two guys have fun trying to escape to Bolivia. That's
You watched it, yeah, you watched it with the laugh track on though.
right.
Like the slide whistle.
Yeah, every time Morgan Freeman got whipped, just
Bonk. Bonk.
Well,
Yeah.
this movie got incredible reviews. It got an insane amount of, like I said, nominations and wins for various awards from all across the world. And I get what the guys are saying. I was so happy that we got to watch it, but it's not like, you don't put it in to have a good time necessarily. You put it in to watch something great. But I would like, from my perspective, for those of you that are like, if you know, we talk about this, is I know some of you guys, you know, you listen to this podcast, you watch movies, you talk about. I would say if you haven't seen it, really, you gotta watch
Yeah.
Unforgiven. I think
Yeah.
it's an absolute sort of slam dunk home
It's
run.
Oh
it's
yeah.
definitely never a movie I would have watched like as a young kid because I was probably watching Lethal Weapon or something or Naked the Naked Gun. But yeah, I'm glad I finally watched it for this podcast for sure.
Okay, so let's switch over to Butch and Sundance, because the one thing I remember about Butch and Sundance is it is fun, it is frivolous, it is really like the you know who.
Also, not at all what I was expecting.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that that's exactly my response. So when I finally sat down to watch Butch and Sundance the first time, I mean, it must have been about 10, 15 years ago. And I was like, all right, you know, and I was expecting a Western. Now, it is a Western, right? But like we were saying, is the dialogue is zippy and
Yeah.
modern, and there's humor all through it. And then the music is kind of strange. But then this movie, it's got the ending you expect for Unforgiven. The endings are backwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
The freeze frame ending. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You expect it to go the other way. Now, of course, that is because Unforgiven is a fiction, and Butch and Sundance is based off real characters and what actually happened in Bolivia and stuff like
They
that.
don't make it out of Bolivia?
Spoiler alert for history.
I remember watching Butch and Sundance, and in the last 2 minutes, I'm going, man, how are they going to get out of this one?
Oh, they don't. Yeah. Yeah. But I love that. I was so pleasantly surprised. I'm like, because they call in I know we're jumping to the end, but they call in the Bolivian army to,
Yeah.
Right.
when the general finds out, it's just like, how many are in there? He goes, two. He goes, what?
Yeah.
And then you just run out and it freeze frames. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's like a Blues Brothers level of like how many people
You
are
hear
like,
the
actually.
yeah.
Did you have subtitles when they were speaking Spanish?
In Spanish, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't. I rented mine. I rented mine on Vudu, but it didn't. I was like, oh, interesting choice, no subtitles. But like, you know, I was picking up the vibe. It's not much Spanish anyway, and I can
Yeah, right.
understand quite a bit of Spanish. But I was
Yeah,
quite
they're
surprised.
not saying go save those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Butch and Sundance. It's definitely, if you've seen westerns and you've seen, you know, all these stuff, or you've seen like whatever, like the black and white shows that we used to grow up with and stuff. Butch and Sundance is, like the guy said, it's more like a Lethal Weapon. You are gonna have you're
Super
gonna have a
fun.
good time, and it's like, and it's Paul Newman and
From the pasta sauce? That guy? I was thinking about that the whole time.
But by the way, sorry, I gotta say real quick about that. Somebody did an interview with Robert Redford like years ago where somebody brought up like, have you ever tried like his like salad dressing or any of that? And he's like, oh yeah, of course I've tried it. And they're like, is that something you'd go to? He's like, no, I would go with a good salad dressing. Like years later, Paul Newman's dead. He's still like, gotta get in my dig.
Buried in a gold casket full of money.
Yeah.
I think also the interesting thing about Newman's Own is he made significantly more money from that than he did from movies, but I think all of it went to like charitable donations or something like that.
Yeah.
It went back into other stuff, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
But no, we got Paul Newman, old Blue Eyes himself, and Robert Redford, who at the time was something of an unknown, and they are just like they are so. I mean, young Robert Redford
Is it two
is
of
like,
the hottest dudes you've ever
Yeah.
seen in a movie?
Yes,
Like,
this is what I mean. Is like young
Yeah.
Robert Redford is like peak Brad Pitt. You know what I mean? Like young Brad Pitt kind of thing.
I was thinking like thinking of Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? How Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like parroting all these old kind of like films. Like this feels like I could see him and Brad Pitt in this movie
Right.
within that movie.
Yeah.
They're so fucking charming. They're I didn't even care like the woman character as incredible
She's almost
she
in the
was. Yeah, I was like, get these two together. I said it's like Brokeback Mountain without the gay sex.
But just the gay sex. All the other stuff is there. Like they are.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so great together. They're like a married couple. In ways, it's so
And
fun.
I love that both of their personalities are so unique as well.
Mhm.
Like, you know, when you see a Lethal Weapon, Riggs and Murtaugh are like so different, or like 24 hours, like, or 48 hours. Like the characters are so different that they're kind of pushed together. Whereas they really complement each other from the get go. Like you feel like they've been friends for 50 fucking years.
Yeah.
But as they keep talking, like they keep learning things about each other, like their names, for example,
Yeah.
or
Right. Yeah.
the fact that he can't fucking swim. It's like all these stuff, and it's just like, are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
go for it, Will.
Oh, no, I was gonna say it is unclear like how long they've been friends long enough that they formed a gang and they've become notorious and they've robbed hundreds of banks.
Oh,
But it's
too many, yeah.
yeah, but it's unclear like exactly when they linked up in the movie. I'm
Right.
sure
Yeah,
in
true.
real life, I'm sure we know.
And they did make the sequel 10 years later, which was the early years, to kind of explain it.
Right, yeah. So but so it's unclear, but it almost doesn't matter. You have so much fun.
I'm on board from the
Yeah.
get-go.
Well, I think you are right, because of what Ryan is saying, is that it's just Newman and Redford together have got such banter that it's all informed in the way that they behave with each other.
It's like Walter Matthau and
Yes.
And Jack
you know,
Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon,
Yeah.
like
Yes,
it's
100%.
just like I would have seen. I'm surprised. I don't know because this is the first film of theirs together I've seen. I'm like, you would think they would have made fucking 20 movies together.
Yeah, only two, which is shocking. They were friends like for
Yeah.
the rest of their lives, but it's weird that they only made the two.
This and The Sting, right?
Yeah, which
And
is
that's the
also
same director.
yeah, which is also a really good movie. But it is funny like that's the only two they even said in interviews they're like we know there's one more like at least that we could do, but they never found that project, which is really sad.
Like an Ocean's 11 or something like.
Well, funny enough, that's the vibe I was feeling. I was watching this going, oh man, this would have been like, George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's that
if
that
you watch
same vibe.
Wolves, which nobody saw,
Yeah,
it
I
does
saw
kind
it.
of have that. Like the chemistry of the two of them together carries the.
Yeah, I wanted so much more from that movie. I
Yeah.
like the director, I like the stars, and it's weird because they were like, they both while the actors have got the great thing, they're both the same character. Like it's almost like you can't quite separate it. They were supposed to be a sequel. It's not getting made. That movie. I wanted it to be a bit more Butch and Sundance, to be honest, and it's not quite.
It's like, what if you had Beverly Hills Cop with two Eddie Murphys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my theory behind, I think I said it on the podcast once before, is that it's Wolves because for me it was like, what's the name of Harvey Keitel's character from Pulp Fiction? Is
The Wolf, yeah.
Oh
and
yeah.
that's exactly what these guys are doing, and that's their jobs. And I was like, okay. But anyway, like I was saying, is that yes, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Ocean's 11 style vibe, multiplied by Lethal Weapon with a little bit of like Western thrown in, and that's Butch Cassidy and
Just
the
a
Sundance
dash of vinaigrette.
Just a little bit of Newman's
Maybe
Own.
you got a salad. Yeah. Oh man.
But
I
like,
love this
it's-
movie.
let's talk about how the movie starts, though. Now, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Is it starts with this old-timey movie. Now, I immediately was Googling because I go, all right, is this a real film? They go, no, this is a shot for this film, silent film.
Oh, wow.
Meant to represent the 1903 Great Train Robbery to kind of give you an idea of where we're going. And
I thought it was actual footage. Wow.
So did I, right?
Yeah.
So it was all
When
done.
I was a kid, I thought so too. Yeah.
So, and then the movie starts. But what does it do for the first when we meet the
Stays in
characters?
sepia,
It stays in sepia for the two
so much
character
so that I was like,
introductions.
oh, I guess the movie this is just how the director decided to make this movie look. But you get that, like, it's such a great way from a filmmaking standpoint to basically have that kind of prologue, so to speak, like how because you learn about, you get that footage, then you get kind of their character interaction, and then as they're riding off, it kind of transitions into color, which they do again when they go to Bolivia at the halfway point, right?
Oh yeah, well yeah, we'll talk about some of
This
those
movie
other
has so many montages.
Yes.
But not enough.
yes.
Yes.
So yeah, no. So it starts off, and it's interesting because it's like it's 1899. It's right. It's kind of like, if you've ever played Red Dead Redemption 2.
That's all I could think about.
Yeah, is a little bit. It's kind of like the end of the West.
Instead of Tahiti, they go to Belize. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this the modernization of world is coming, and it's sort of shown in the very very beginning is because what Butch is like casing this bank, and he's like seeing, oh man, they got an alarm, and like it's wired into this thing, and he's like, what do you guys do to the bank? It used to be really pretty. He's just basically saying it used to be easy to rob, but
really
then,
great shots in that too.
Yeah.
Like the inserts of them like putting the closed up, like those really extreme shots showing you what he's seeing, I thought was done really fucking well.
But then also is the same. I love the introduction of Sundance. If it's just a shot of him, playing cards. A guy's shoulder is all we see. One of those other guys that we never see at the table is Sam Elliott in his very first movie.
Yep.
Who then goes on to marry Catherine Ross. Funnily enough, random coinky dink.
Wow.
But like the whole scene plays out just on Sundance, and it's like, and it gives us a lot because his steely look, like I said, so handsome.
I think it's all one single take too, right? I don't
Up
know if
until
there's
a point. Once we get
Up
into
until Paul Newman says, I can't help you, Sundance. Then it cuts to the other guy who's like,
oh shit,
But
you
it was
what did
a
I do?
long oneer from just a wide shot pushback, like
Yeah.
cool. Really cool.
But it gives us such a great, like, it gives us a great introduction to that, because then he's a crack shot, and he's like, I think you should invite us to stay. And it's like, Paul Newman, just invite us to stay. We'll leave.
You don't have to,
but
you don't have to meet
if
him.
I were you, I'd invite us to stay, because
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you. And like, even the little bit of like, when the guy asks how good you are and he spins around, like, I didn't notice the first time, but like Butch runs out the way because he knows exactly what's coming. He's like, oh shit, here we go.
Yep. Not again.
But then even more of that, like, again, it's great characterization, because when we get to the hole in the wall gang and this guy's like, challenging him for leadership. And it's just like, because I love Butch, he's just such a nice guy. And he's just like, he's a good talker. And but also he's just a bit of a scoundrel. So he's like, all right, look, okay, well, let's go over the rules. The guy's like, no rules. Oh, okay, kicks him in the nuts.
Right in the
Goes,
dick,
somebody count to 3 so we can start this fight. 1, 2, 3, go. Bang. Like, okay, let's move on. I love it.
The funniest like double swing punch
Yeah,
with both hands and he falls over. It's
It
like
was
a fucking cartoon.
Captain Kirk, right?
Yeah, it's a Captain Kirk hit, which is funny because Captain Kirk fought that guy in an episode of the show.
Get out of town. I love that you know that, you giant nerd.
It's Lurch is that actor. That's
No, it's not.
Oh, I was gonna say yeah.
Wow. Oh, thank you.
Why
for
he's
that,
so
Will.
big.
Yeah, he is fucking gargantuan,
Yeah.
that guy.
And shredded, like just fucking
Yeah.
They're all like, like 60s shredded, which they were, I guess we were all in the
just cigarettes and
yeah.
whiskey, I guess.
Funny enough, actually, just to jump around a little bit, but when they were shooting in Mexico, everyone got sick apart from the 3 main cast: Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Catherine Ross, because they refused to drink water, so they only drink alcohol or soda the entire time. And in
good
fact,
advice for all of us.
Paul
Yeah.
Newman, Robert Redford said this is the most fun movie they ever made because it was just drinking beer in Mexico for weeks. They were just having a grand time. Because I think it permeates through the movie. These guys are just having a ball.
Yeah.
Oh,
You could tell for sure.
Yeah.
It also has one of the most dangerous looking stunts I've ever seen in a movie ever.
I know what you're gonna say, but I also was just thinking of when they have to jump into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a scene I think where Robert Redford jumps onto a fucking train. And
Yeah.
it's him doing that.
He does that for real.
I was like,
and
that's nuts.
Paul Newman called him out on that. Like, I don't want to lose my co-star, man, but like Robert Redford, like, I'm going to do it. That water jump, while the actors jumped in Colorado, the stuntmen jumped in California. I actually read that there was a crane that they jumped off that they then matte painted over, which is really impressively done.
For that,
I'm gonna give
that's nuts.
credit where credit is due. But no, let's talk about that explosion, because that was actually
second explosion.
Yeah, because there is an explosion that I've watched it over and over again going, did they almost fucking kill me?
Oh, for sure. I was like, I felt like, ooh, that is, because I mean, the camera's right there, or at least I zoomed into that point, but the actors are right there, and the debris.
Yeah.
My God, the debris.
It's incredible, and honestly, that is the shot that made me want to watch the movie. Now, because I was watching something. It may have been an Oscars or a retrospective, and it was just showing classic clips from movies. And it just showed that explosion. And I remember going, holy shit.
Yeah.
But I was like, what a shot. And I'm like, that's what Butch and Sundance is? I have to watch that movie.
You can't do that twice. Yeah.
No. And it's like, and they don't, because when they do cut it, they cut it to a
The
further
whole
away
train
shot.
car is fucking exploded.
It's going up. But that's also something I want to talk about is the cinematography in this movie. Like, some incredible shots, because after that scene, so they rob a bank, they rob a train one way, they rob a train the other way. Very funny. Same guy on the train both times. Love it.
Yeah.
Woodcock, yeah.
Woodcock.
Yeah. And like, using because they've improved the safe, so they put some more thing, blows it up, funny quip, funny line. But then suddenly the other train pulls up and this posse comes out. They chase them for 40 minutes. It's just the guys running away.
I was wondering, I'm like, in movies like this, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief of like time and distance because they're, it's how long are they riding for? How far are these towns away from one another for them to like escape at night, go to the sheriff's thing, go pick her up, go out again? I'm like, this would have taken like weeks and they would have died of dysentery.
Yeah, no, but during that chase scene, it's brilliant because you never get to see the posse. They're just kind of getting closer and closer. But there are shots, guys, where they're in the foreground, but we've long lensed
like the lanterns,
Yes, the lanterns. You see them on the top of a mountain, but they're in. I'm like, wow. I mean, they're of course using radios, but guys, 1969. And like those guys are 2 miles away, and it's like, and framing that up, and it's like, okay, go, guys.
He's like, I know it's him. I can see his white straw hat. I'm like, fucking how? Then I can't see shit.
But then you can when you watch the movie. They cut back to a very specific bit where this character has got a black like sort of shirt behind him, so you can see the white hat, and you're just like, it was masterful stuff. Yeah, it's just so. Again, I bring it up a lot when I'm in this podcast. It's like I'm always thinking about. Man, that was hard. What a hard shot to get. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the cinematography is great, and that white hat became iconic. If anybody's seen the movie like Mallrats, that's what they're referencing is the security guard LaFours. Is they're referencing this character?
That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the security guard's name is LaFours. Yeah.
But you never see that character.
No,
LaFours?
You never see his face.
Never.
No. I think that actor is somebody.
Adam Driver.
It's Adam Driver.
You got that,
you, motherfucker.
I forget. I don't think that's like an actor. I think it's I don't know. I remember hearing like that's such and such.
The young Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, the factoid has left my head since.
Well, there was a random factoid I saw is that like Paul Newman did all his bike stunts himself because the stuntman couldn't ride bike. Apart from the bit where he falls over backwards, and that was, I think,
that
the cinematographer or something like that.
When it cuts to the bull,
the close up of the bull's eye,
and then his reaction shot of like, that was really fucking funny.
Yeah, it's his reaction like, oh no.
Some shot choices are like that whole sequence is truly bizarre because
Burt Bacharach song. Yeah.
He rolls up in the morning on a bicycle, which I didn't even think existed in this time frame. Like he must be the first person to have a bicycle. Rides it flawlessly. She just jumps on the handlebars. They tool around. She's like, all right, I'm gonna get off and run up to the barn, go up here so I can throw some straw. I'm like, are they gonna fuck? Like what? It's weird.
They had this whole it's they just got a real sort of intimate friendship.
Yeah.
Which was
well, they're the throuple. It's Butch is the like emotional, stable one that you cuddle with. And Sundance is just the one you sleep with, and that's it. And together they make a whole man. You know?
I do love the bit right at the beginning where because that's where the bicycle's introduced. Is there's a marshal trying to mount a posse,
right?
And it's just that. I mean, it just brings comedy into these moments.
That's who I thought was chasing them.
Right? No. Yeah, it's just some legendary guy that they talk about. But no, the guy's got the whole thing. The crowd's not really on board. And then the guy goes, ladies and gentlemen, and suddenly he just starts selling the bike. But the other joke being that they're saying we're trying to round up a posse to get Butch and Sundance, who are
right
in
there,
the brothel behind. Yeah. It's so funny. I loved it.
Yeah, that was great. And where they first learn each other's names, they're like, well, I guess what if we just go to
join the army, right? Fight the Spanish. Oh, major, whatever it is. It's just going to sound stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a great movie that, okay, like I said, makes weird choices. One, that Burt Bacharach song, okay, sticks out. Another one is like the really interesting montage that takes them from Wyoming to New York and from New York to Bolivia. And I was reading something about that like another movie was being made at the time. I'll see if I can find it, but it was a pretty famous movie for the time, was being shot at exactly the same time, and they had these great New York sets. And so they had asked, hey, can we come in and shoot on those sets. Last minute, they changed their mind because they wanted to keep them secret for their own movie. So what they then did is kind of like pivoted, took pictures of them in the sets, but then also inserted them into all of those sort of classic historical sort of photos. It weirdly works really well, doesn't it?
I could tell.
Like, because 69, because you see movies even today, right? But like, especially in the 80s and 90s or whatever, where you've seen people digitally inserted into pictures and it looks, their heads are wrong, the lighting's wrong or whatever. I'm looking at these and I'm like, these are fucking flawless.
Yeah.
You know, you sold me.
You can kind of get away with it because the photos are kind of old and kind of crusty. So, you know, if the
faces are different, like I said, I do this for a living. Like you can tell the faces are a little too clean, or the photo is not. It's very noticeable for someone like me, but it sticks out. But those, I was like, wow, they actually fucking shot all these photos and cobbled it together in this really beautiful slideshow. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's got that kind of interesting song choice. Again, it's kind of like
the blah.
Yeah. Well, actually, that Burt Bacharach song, the Raindrops song, is already a pretty weird song. But then there's an intermission in that song where like a circus music like comes in and is like playing for a portion of it. And then once he falls off the bike and sees the bull, it goes right back into the Raindrops song. And I just, even as a kid, it's like, what? Why did we like all of a sudden go into the dun, 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 like Burt Bacharach is like, I'm not doing this part of the song.
Well, I wondered, is that a part of the song that I forgot when I was watching the movie? The movie I was talking about is Hello Dolly. So Hello Dolly was shooting on the soundstage next door. Their schedules were kind of opposite. And they just went, okay, that's not going to work. And so they went with that sort of montage. But, you know, again, I talk about it a lot in this movie that I think is that often creativity comes from struggle. You know, and
I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be feeling in some of those shots, because you have Robert Redford and his whatever character's name, I can't remember. But it's like the two of them dancing, and it would just show a shot of him just sitting there going like,
just kind of tired. Yeah.
Like fucking hate these two.
Well, no, I think it's just like it's really interesting that, you know, they are kind of a throuple in many ways. And so, like, you know, and it does kind of play a little fast and with time because, you know, Bolivia, they spent 8 years there, you know, and so it's like, and they did originally have them kind of aging up, and they just kind of removed it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it doesn't really matter, you know, fundamentally. But like, what I also really like is the bit where like, when they first turn up in Bolivia, the whole time Butch has been talking about, no, it's like there's this, it's just gold and silver, and it's like it's gonna be, and then the train pulls away, and it's just such a shithole. And you just get that great bit where just Sundance is just calling him out. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, this might be.
People come from hundreds of miles to
the greatest place. How do we fucking know?
And there's just like 40 little like piglets running around,
chickens, and just like, you know, just dust, not a single human being. And it was just like,
that's what your property looks like.
And then it plays out like the last act of the movie actually sort of plays out, you know, it's shot in Mexico, but, you know, set in Bolivia, and it's kind of fun. Like, I love the first
learning
scene.
the language.
They go to try and rob a bank, and then they're like, and then
the guy was so friendly too.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how much are they traveling? Like, how many fucking banks are like in this radius of wherever they are? Because it's not many. So much so that when they go back to pull the deposit, like, shit, when do we hit this
rob
bank?
This place in June? But it's just so. The other thing that I kind of like, until that moment with the Bolivian gang, I realized as well. I go, wait a minute, these guys haven't shot anyone. You know, it's like they
shoot at people to scare them away.
Yeah,
like when they rob that bank, which is they just hide in the trees and shoot at them. The guys are just like, oh, let's get out.
But even then, that was the closest they'd come to shooting someone at that point. They were just sort of like fun-loving scoundrels that kind of rogue people. Like,
their whole crew got fucking shot up at that second train robbery, and they're just like, I guess they're dead now. Like, they're really good. You have like news, like you're introduced to this character's name's News because he reads his name in the news, and like he dies very unceremoniously.
News Carver, yep.
But I do like that, you know, there's just lots of callback jokes. Like the whole time they're being chased, like that 40-minute chase scene what's the one thing they say over and over again is like, who are these guys?
Yeah,
Like,
who
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
these guys?
what
Yeah.
the hell's going on? And then like for me is that I love it and I was waiting for it again, but it's the last line of the movie is a gag. And it's like, wait, did you see what's his face out there? No. Oh, thank God, I thought we were in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I just laughed
Such
my
a great
ass
laugh
off.
line.
I was like so many lines that I've heard like in other things or reference that I now know are from this, where he's like, "Oh, you get tired of being right all the time." Like, such good stuff.
Well,
That where they think that the guy followed them to fucking Bolivia after 8 years. Like, no,
Yeah.
I thought for sure. I'm like, oh, they definitely did, but that sounds crazy to me.
yeah. I mean, this is where we should probably give credit to William Goldman, the screenwriter. The guy's like a legend. Princess Bride, all,
Okay.
all the President's Men. Like he's an absolute legend. But yeah, this is very much what he was good at, is kind of like mashing different styles together. Like obviously, Princess Bride is fantasy with comedy, and he really did a great job of being like, hey, what if like a Western actually had personality and was funny, and it wasn't John Wayne style
Yeah.
Western, you know?
Well, so I was interested. So I was both of these movies got a lot of credit for. Like a lot of people said, that Unforgiven, because it had actually been around for decades before it got made, and they said it's one of the best scripts ever. Like it read like a novel. There's like when they made the movie-
Allegedly only a first draft.
Apparently.
Clint Eastwood has said that. I don't know if I buy that because it's so good.
and that there were no notations in the script or anything. Everyone was like, no, this movie's great. But then, interesting enough, with Butch and Sundance, is that a lot of people didn't want to make it. Now, initially, he said, I wanted to make it, and I didn't want it to be like a novel. I wanted it to be more, like I said, zippy and fun. But only one studio wanted to buy it. But everyone was like, you got to take out this whole Bolivia thing. And he's like, but that happened. And like the studios are like, yeah, but you can't have, like, John Wayne never ran away. You can't have the good guys running away. And he's like, but this is what happened.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like it's and so yeah, there was a sort of like a bit of disagreement about that whole thing, but eventually it's like, they did it, and well, it is what it is, and it's fucking awesome.
Iconic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a testament to how much that elevates the material of this, and it doesn't fall into your stereotypical, like, broad stroke Western film. Like
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
writing-
Both these movies
Yeah.
are either side of the spectrum of the same
Yeah.
thing. It's like they both defy convention. They both take it a bit like a different approach, different way. It never
Yeah.
quite go down the way you
It's-
think it's gonna
It's
go.
the reason like a Hell or High Water or a No Country for Old Men work is because of the genesis of these films,
100%.
That said, I'm still gonna go back and watch The Quick and the Dead right after this this fucking recording.
For some more quality Gene Hackman and some great crash zooms.
Yes.
As well. I mean, so this one is another, like you were said at the beginning, Ryan, we picked two stunning movies for this week.
That couldn't be like same genre, but very, very
like,
far apart.
But they're absolute slam dunks. So, same thing, for anyone listening at home, it's a 1969, cowboy movie. No, it's not. It's
Not at
watch
all.
it. It's Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
And
it's
Unforgiven,
so good.
1992.
Yeah.
Watch it. It's dark and it's deep and it's thoughtful and it's like, it just sort of leaves you feeling some kind of way. But two amazing movies set in Wyoming. Not a single one of them shot anywhere near it.
But at least in Unforgiven, you get the title card, which is the Western equivalent to seeing a license plate.
It's true.
I was going to say on the back of Sundance's horse, it had the little license plate.
That is such
Yeah.
like a naked guy. I know we said this before. It's like that's such a fucking Naked Gun bit, like in a
Right.
Western.
But it was like, if I want it, like I remember correctly, like I think Butch and Sundance was shot a lot in like Zion National Park,
Utah, yeah, a lot of
Utah
Utah, yeah.
stuff like that, and
I
then
think Arizona
Unforgiven-
too.
Unforgiven was shot. I think it's another one of the is Alberta's. Let's for a second also talk about just the amazing set design, Big Whiskey. And apparently it was built in like 30 days. The whole movie apparently shot in 34 days, which is
Wow.
fucking incredible. But like that set design, it went up so quickly. And I was just watching movies with Tilds, and it was just so fun having someone to talk about movies. And I go, look at that. We're doing a long shot. There's a whole town, and then there's all those mountains in the background. It's just like everything is just feeling like we're there, we're out there. Apparently in Unforgiven as well, to maintain any sort of the realism and authenticity and just the vibe, is that absolutely no vehicles or motor vehicles or anything was allowed near Big Whiskey. So, if you're coming in and out, or you're either walking or taking horses and stuff like that, which I think is
Clint Eastwood just shot you. He drove a car.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hand me the whiskey. Oh shit, guys!
Oh no.
From his Gran Torino.
Yeah.
But yeah, but they are both. I mean, I'd say Butch and Sundance even more. Like, I lived like you guys. I lived in Arizona for a long time, and it's got that. It has that American iconography. I think more than either of the other movies, like, in a way that, we always said that Close Encounters had the Wyoming iconography because it's Devil's Tower. It's one of the most iconic rock formations on planet
Put
Earth.
Wyoming on the map.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because I want to go to Wyoming because I want to go and see that because
You just want to
of
get
that movie.
abducted by aliens.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But like, just some of those long shots, sweeping shots, just the very first shot that turns from sepia to color, and it's just pure America, and it's kind of the same thing that Tildy was saying with Unforgiven. Is like, man, like America is so big. We're looking at it through the lens of Europeans and stuff like that. Just like, wow, this country is fucking huge. It's insane. And you certainly get that feeling in both of them, in Unforgiven. But I think the biggest one of them being Butch Cassidy. But of course, look, these are two amazing movies, and they're going up against another amazing movie. But that's not what this podcast is about. Is what's amazing is which one is it gives you that sort of like that Wyoming vibe. Which one sort of like takes you down that route. And because I think I'm leaning one way, and I couldn't even really tell you why. But again, I want to see where you guys are.
It's Unforgiven. It's Unforgiven, isn't it?
It's definitely Unforgiven for me. But I can't tell you specifically why.
I think for me, I mean, if you take the like Devil's Tower out of like that,
if you take it out,
that movie is completely eliminated. That's like, so for me, it is also Unforgiven because that story is a little more contained to this. Whereas watching Butch Sundance, I can just tell like none of this was anywhere in Wyoming, or at least I didn't get that feeling. Like, whereas Unforgiven,
maybe
like it more.
Maybe it's that sound thing that I was talking about as well. Is that Unforgiven at all times is outside, or in these buildings, it's nothing's on a soundstage. Whereas Butch and Sundance, some of it
Unforgiven made me feel like I was in this small town in Wyoming.
Yeah. And it's like it felt like it because, like I said, when
even from like his house going to the town, like all of the locations to me, watching that felt like I was in Wyoming, where Butch Cassidy felt way more grandiose, which I think was, for me, was a more enjoyable film to watch. But I think from the Wyoming aspect of it, I would have to give it to Unforgiven.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm landing too, is Unforgiven just feels very Wyoming, even though not filmed there, feels very Wyoming centric, whereas Butch Cassidy is a little too close to a road movie. And I totally agree. I think Close Encounters.
I think they mentioned Wyoming like once or twice, even though like the true story of it did happen there. So that does get at a point.
But so I think with Unforgiven as well, I was saying it's you're hearing the trees, you're hearing the birds, you're hearing the rivers and the clunk of wood under their feet, and the train. I think that one train scene that was shot in California. Because there's I think there's a movie ranch that's got this very specific, for shooting, if you want to get trains and you want to get this kind of thing, which is pretty cool. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. I like it because I like it when we agree, and I also like it when we disagree. You know what I mean? But in this case, I think that Unforgiven is just. I'd really like to bring some other I don't know, a movie that was shot entirely in Wyoming, just starting
and maybe a modern movie, it'd be nice to find a Wyoming film that is not a Western.
well, we did. I mean, we had Wind River in season 1
and Shane,
and
both kind of Westerns though.
I think we just went out of our way because we didn't want Wind River to represent that.
Yeah.
I think
Even though-
if I remember correctly, is that because and again, I think it was shot in Canada or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was like, is that because the subject matter of it was so dark, and that we were like, we didn't feel right to do it that way, and like, but now we've picked Unforgiven, which is a really breezy movie.
Very similar premise. Like a man is hired to go seek out and find the people who did this terrible thing to someone. So there you go.
So somebody make a romantic comedy in Wyoming, please. Something a little lighter. Have Sonic 4 set in Wyoming. Why not?
Well, but then
The gunfights in that are sick.
Well, actually, I was watching some clips from Sonic 3 because one of my Corridor digital videos I was watching is that one of this new Shadow has a gun. Like, that's a Sonic character.
It's played by Keanu Reeves, so of course he does.
Yeah, he's got to
makes
kill everybody.
Sense. So yeah, is that in this case here at the United States Movie Podcast, we have a new champion, the movie to represent Wyoming, at least until we come back around in season 3 to try and dethrone it, is the incredible 1992 movie Unforgiven. Like we said, written by and starring, not written, but directed, produced, music by Clint Eastwood. It's an absolute banger. It's got an incredible cast. I really would recommend it. I know what the guys are saying, that you do have to kind of be in a mood, but the mood, I tell
Maybe
you
it's
what,
like a rainy day and like
it's a Sunday for sure.
Yeah, it's a Sunday. It's raining a little bit. You got a nice bottle of whiskey with you. You got revenge on your mind.
Yeah. I'd say the one big thing that I did see that bothered me is that everything, it won for all these kind of things, but Clint Eastwood did not win Best Actor. He lost to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman, which a lot of people have like in history. That award has not aged well. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm happy with this one. I think it's a good one. I think it's a good choice. But of course, there is the question of what other movies could we have picked? And the thing is, when you get to Wyoming, 98% of the movies from Wyoming are westerns. I was astounded that like it's got
more shot in Canada.
Yeah. But it's just it's bonkers how many of them are set there. You know,
a lot of mustaches on this list.
Yeah, I mean, like Heaven's Gate. I think The Hateful Eight. I think even that new Kevin Costner one, Horizon or something like that. So yeah, what was some of the other?
Let's not do Horizon.
We talked like everyone mentions Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, I think we have to do it. We almost did it. And the thing is, like, I only ever saw that on a plane once, and I still remember thinking, was it the prettiest thing? It was stunningly shot, and I think we've got to do it. And I just think, you know, we ended up with Unforgiven and Butch because I think it was mostly because Ryan hadn't seen.
I hadn't seen either of them. Yeah,
and then I was like, that's got to happen. The Laramie Project, I know that's not right.
This is such a Will sounding movie. The Mountain Men. Like, two beaver trappers come across an American Indian woman who has been abused. Moved by her plight, they decide to protect her from her cruel husband.
Sounds like another uplifting comedy.
You know, see, I'm on this. I'm like, I'm on this thread. Like, I think it's the same thread that sometimes you find. So Ryan's found this great place on Reddit where they've been going through and people from all the states are kind of chipping in.
Where they stole our idea.
Right.
Right. But is that the first 5 movies, the top 5 movies are the movies we've done.
Right.
You know, so then the very next one on the list is Brokeback Mountain, which I think we're going to have to do. And then Red Rock West. No,
we're going to start doing some student films.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. I think we may have to get like. Hateful Eight is there, and it'd be kind of like, I haven't done Hateful Eight since it came out.
I thought.
Right.
Ready to Rumble was one that I remember, Ryan, you brought up, which is like a
yeah.
wrestling movie or something like that.
Okay.
In a way,
we got some hope still.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's something like it's the Laramie Project. So I think we might have to get I might have to get you to dig into find some classic Dusty Shane.
He's gonna find one fucking farty Star Trek episode that happened.
But it's like
they go to Wyoming.
It's interesting to see is that because there are some states that, like I said, we've been doing already where we're like, we could do a whole we could do 10 episodes on that
Yeah.
state, and never, have any problem. And then the other states, it's like it's already getting kind of tricky to find something sort of like
this season's
like
gonna be
iconic.
rough for a couple states.
Yeah.
So
Well, once we run out of movies in that state, you're done. You're off the project.
We just found like a TV show or something. But it's also where we're going next week. I believe, is it South Carolina?
That's right. The mouth of the South.
The mouth of the South, South Carolina, which we famously had Beth Troutman on for season 1. I'll see if we can get Beth, but I know she is a very, very busy lady, being the queen of South Carolina radio. So
The Shag Queen seems like.
or is it North? She's in Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
That's North Carolina.
Yeah. So she's the queen of North Carolina radio. So we were looking at movies right before we started recording, and I think we've ended up on one really peculiar pair of movies, neither of which I've seen. Will, why don't you tell us about the James Gunn movie that we've decided?
The James Gunn sci-fi comedy thriller gross out trauma tribute, Slither. I'm excited to watch this with you guys. Like this is gonna be fun.
It's written and directed by James Gunn.
Yeah.
Which is I think the second written James Gunn movie we've had on the show, because didn't we do that zombie one, the Zack Snyder?
Zack Snyder's.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead.
Oh yeah.
I remember hearing about this. I don't know much about it, but seeing Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks,
it's his whole troupe.
It's got me interested for sure. But then the other movie we've gone through is an insanely famous movie that everyone has seen apart from me.
I was going to say,
just as disgusting.
A movie no one's ever fucking heard of, directed by the guy from The Wraith. Burger Boy himself.
Yes. So tell us, Ryan, what is the movie that we're going to do?
Fuckers picked The Notebook.
Yeah.
I'm already crying.
Yes, we're doing The Notebook.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I. I hear it's a real tearjerker.
It's a real tit flapper.
It's a real, but yes, very much directed by Nick Cassavetes from The Wraith, which is just insane to me. Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, James Garner, James Marsden, all kinds of stuff. Wow, Sam Shepard as well, Joan Allen.
A lot of handsome people.
But yeah, don't know much about it, but yes, we'll be doing it. We will be doing it. So if you want to see The Notebook, or you want to see, what was our other one? Slither. Neither of them are streaming anywhere.
The Notebook, that's shocking.
It used to be on Netflix.
It's been on Netflix. It was on Netflix for 20 years and I didn't watch it, so I'm like, it's my fault. But unless you're like, Will, what is the name of your movie, the shop right behind you in LA? Just give it a little call out.
Videotech in Highland Park, near Los Angeles.
Hell yeah.
So if you're in LA, that's probably where you're going to go. Otherwise, you're going to have to rent it or try and find them free on YouTube. So that's where we're going next time, South Carolina. Guys, thank you so much for this week. I really had a great time watching these movies. So fantastic. As always, if you don't already, click subscribe. We picked up some new subscribers because we're talking about movies on my channel, That Englishman in Texas, where I like to talk about Texas, but I like to talk about movies as well. You can also find me as Ollie Pettigrew on Facebook. I'm so close, guys. I'm about to hit 100,000 followers. Big deal. It's going to be very cool. Will, you can always find Will as Entitled Millennial, especially on TikTok, where he likes to talk about movies, movie news, things like that. And he also likes to get into the nuance and sometimes just complain about stuff. They're very entertaining videos.
He's the guy at the video store who yells, "Hey, that was written by Akira Kurosawa."
And then everyone says, "Shut up, check this movie out."
And then, who let you in here?
Ryan, you can find, in fact, Ryan, I've been starting to share. So on our Facebook page, you can see our United States of Movie Facebook page. I started to share sometimes some of the fake movie posters that Ryan has created, sometimes that we have just speculated. I will be posting very soon biblically accurate angel.
You guys are so obsessed with that. I don't understand it.
It's so good.
You claim it's the best work I've ever done, which is honestly insulting.
But that being said, Ryan, what we're also going to start doing on our Facebook page is posting some of the movie posters that Ryan's designed with links for you if you want to buy them. I think it's something something we should start doing there as
Yeah.
well. So you can find Ryan and his designs as Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Also, tell someone, if you love movies as much as we do and you like listening to movie podcasts, tell your friends, get them on board. Let's get in the conversation. And as always, send us recommendations for movies you think we should do for your state.
Especially if you're from Wyoming. Yeah.
Especially
Yes,
if you're
please.
from Wyoming. But as always, from me, Ollie, from Will, and from Ryan, thanks as always for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie Podcast. Pew, 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 pew. Hey!